Hello and welcome to our Spotlight video series. I'm Tom Spiggle, founder of the Spiggle Law Firm. This is a video series where we discuss cutting edge employment law issues in the news. I'm thrilled today to be joined by one of our senior paralegals, Mike Knieling. Mike has done a lot of work in wage and hour and overtime law. And I believe today, Mike, you want to talk about Department of Labor's proposed new overtime rule.
Yes, sir. It has the potential to create quite a few different changes, but for a very limited group of people. Um, there are multiple very complicated exemptions under the DOL, and each of those exemptions could determine how you're classified. But an increase in the overtime rate or the provision to be exempt strictly from overtime, increasing that from it's about 35.5 now to like 55 a year, increasing that could cause some people to become reclassified as non-exempt and make them back to being eligible for overtime. And a lot of companies will likely, if I know the area well enough, they will likely wind up reclassifying people because it's easier to manage 40 hours a week and hire someone else than it is to increase everybody to a substantial rate. Like if you're on the threshold of about 35 and a half a year and this goes through, your rate hike will have to go up to 55 a year. And that's a big jump for a lot of companies out there that even if you're a company like Walmart, that's a big jump for a lot of people and it can be very expensive. So reclassification is something that we may see because of this. But like I said, there's a lot of different complicated exemptions. The main ones that are going to get hit probably are the white collar exemption. But a lot of those people are already very highly compensated. But they may also get hit with it because the increase there is from like 100K a year to about 148, which is also quite a large jump, just to try and hit the white collar exemption.
So if I'm an employee, what should I be looking for? It's because I imagine some companies are going to step in it, are going to not, reclassify properly or not reclassify at all. If I'm in that, let's say $40,000 to $50,000 a year range, what should I be looking for?
You should just honestly, first and foremost, this is proposed. It hasn't gone through yet, so that change may not occur at all. But if you're going to see one, you will probably see on the news somewhere that this has occurred. When you see that, you can start to pay attention to what your paychecks look like with your company, what it looks like as far as your hours are concerned. If you're exempt and you happen to work, your usual work range per week is about 45 hours a week, which is over the overtime range. If you're exempt from overtime, you may see that get cut back down and them start being very firm about any overtime. You may see additional employees get hired at the same position as you, making exactly the same instead of making more or less, or just to make sure that the company stays well within range.
But I guess if a company is not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and this does go into effect, and it's an if, as you say, if I'm in that range and I've normally been paid a salary, and I'm, not been getting overtime, because they've classified me as exempt, and all of a sudden under this new rule I'm not exempt, then I'm entitled to that 5 hours of overtime, right? If I'm working 45 hours, is that how the rule would work?
So if you were reclassified to non-exempt, then yes, you would be entitled to that 5 hours, and then you'll start to see the company enforce overtime provisions. So you're not allowed to work that 5 hours. And that will, if they reclassify you as an hourly employee, your current salary check will begin to fluctuate and become hourly because you will be working 39.8 hours or 41.2, right? And you will see a fluctuation in your paycheck. Whereas if you're exempt, you continue to see the same paycheck day in and day out, and it doesn't change.
Right. I'm guessing, like, I'm just trying to think of where an employer, if I'm an employee, where my employer might have liability. Like if they don't, let's say the employer is asleep at the switch, right? The rule goes into effect, they're asleep at the switch, they don't reclassify, right? But
Right.
I make $45,000 a year under the rule, right? Now I now should be getting overtime for that extra 5 hours over, the over 40 that I'm working.
Either that or you should be getting a raise. Yes,
Right,
absolutely.
right. So if it's neither one is happening, then right, that's when you need to, call GOL or more likely go see a lawyer, because there may be some liability there because, as you know, and as people who may be watching this may not know, the wage and hour laws can be very powerful and very pro-employee if the employer fails to follow them.
Right. And under the DOL, those exemptions are very complicated. So if you have any question at all about whether or not you meet a particular exemption, if you think you're classified wrong and you should be earning overtime, please go talk to an attorney, come talk to us, please, because it's very, very complicated and it's easy to get misinformation.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's important, I think, for people to know it doesn't matter what your employer says, right? If they're wrong, like if they
Right.
fail to reclassify you just because they say you're not exempt, if under let's say this rule goes into effect, and you are now, you are not exempt from overtime pay, you're a non-exempt employee under the law. It doesn't matter what your company says. If they're not paying you properly, then you're entitled, to back wages, attorney's fees, any number of things that the company has violated the law.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And like I said, it is very, very complicated. So even if you think you might be misclassified, talk to somebody
Yeah.
because and somebody that knows what they're doing, please. Come
Yes.
see
Right.
us. Go see
Right.
another employment attorney.
Yeah.
Um, but yet, not one of your friends who was involved in a class action. They're not going to know enough. These are very complicated issues. The judge's opinions take some legal experience to learn how to read and break down because these are very complicated issues.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Mike, I appreciate you taking the time. I think it's a very important topic. I hope people got a lot out of this. I know I did, and I will let you get back to the next thing on your desk.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you. It is a busy day. It's a wonderful Friday though. So.
Good stuff.